What happens when U.S. intelligence assessments about Russia's next military move suddenly enter the public conversation? Tonight, we examine what's been reported, what it likely means for Ukraine in Arsen-Lingarsa War, and why this moment matters more than it appears. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're looking at reports suggesting that U.S. intelligence assessments have revealed details about Russia's next potential military phase in the Ukraine war. As we move into Arsen-Lingarsa War, this isn't about sensational headlines. It's about understanding strategy, risk, and consequence. In this video, I'll walk you through what's been reported, how analysts are interpreting it, and most importantly, my own analysis of what this could mean going forward. Let's break it down carefully. To understand why these intelligence reports matter, we need to briefly step back. The Russia-Ukraine war, now entering its fourth year, has evolved from an initial invasion into a prolonged conflict shaped by attrition, international aid, economic pressure, and strategic recalculation, defensive depth, and sustained pressure along multiple fronts. Ukraine, for its part, has relied heavily on Western military assistance, intelligence sharing, and economic support. According to public statements from NATO officials and defense analysts, U.S. intelligence has played a key role in helping Ukraine anticipate Russian movements, protect infrastructure, and plan counteroffensives. By late Arsen-Lingarsa, multiple analysts noted that the conflict was entering a new phase. Front lines had stabilized in some areas, while drone warfare, long-range strikes, and cyber operations became increasingly central. Economic sanctions had constrained Russia but not collapsed its war capacity, while Ukraine faced its own challenges related to manpower, air defense, and sustaining Western political support. Understanding this background matters because intelligence leaks, or reported disclosures, don't happen in a vacuum. They emerge from a long pattern of strategic signaling, deterrence messaging, and internal debate within Western governments about transparency versus operational risk. Okay? In my analysis, this context helps explain why even partial intelligence disclosures can shift perceptions, not just on the battlefield, but in diplomatic rooms, defense ministries, and financial markets. And according to multiple media reports, citing U.S. and allied officials, intelligence assessments outlining Russia's potential military priorities for Arsen-Lingarsa War have circulated beyond classified channels. These reports suggest Russia may be planning a combination of defensive consolidation, and selective offensive pressure rather than a full-scale nationwide push. What's important here is precision. There is no verified evidence that a single, detailed operational plan was publicly released. Instead, analysts suggest that summarized assessments, trends, likely objectives, and force postures became publicly discussed through briefings, leaks, or indirect references. The reported timeline indicates these assessments emerged following increased Russian troop rotations, expanded drone production, and intensified missile stockpiling toward the end of Arsen-Lingarsa. Here's where my analysis begins. Intelligence leaks don't usually happen because someone drops a secret. More often, they result from strategic ambiguity breaking down briefings to lawmakers, allied coordination meetings, or media backgrounders intended to shape public understanding. In my perspective, this appears less like an accidental exposure and more like controlled signaling. Analysts have long noted that Western governments sometimes allow limited intelligence details to surface to deter adversaries, reassure allies, or prepare domestic audiences for long-term commitments. Technically speaking, modern intelligence assessments rely on satellite imagery, intercepted communications, logistics tracking, and open source indicators. None of this reveals exact attack dates or coordinates, but it does outline capability and intent trends. What I find interesting is how restrained the language has been. Reports emphasize likely, potential, and assessed, which suggests caution rather than escalation. Short term, these disclosures may influence battlefield decision-making. Ukraine may adjust defensive deployments, while Russia may alter timelines or tactics to maintain unpredictability. Long term, the implications are broader. Public intelligence assessments shape political will. They influence defense budgets, alliance cohesion, and public tolerance for continued support. Here's my perspective. The real impact isn't operational. It's psychological and strategic. Once expectations are set publicly, leaders are judged against them from a Western viewpoint. These reports reinforce the idea that Russia is settling into a long war posture, rather than seeking rapid escalation. In fact, from Moscow's perspective, based on state media responses and expert commentary, these reports are often dismissed as propaganda or strategic misinformation. Independent analysts tend to fall somewhere in between, suggesting that while Russia retains capacity, its options are constrained. My assessment? Each side is reading the same information differently, which increases the risk of miscalculation, but also opens space for deterrence. This is where I think mainstream coverage often stops too early. Geopolitically, intelligence disclosures affect more than Ukraine. They influence NATO planning, non-aligned states, and even global energy markets. Investors react to perceived escalation risk. Governments reassess supply chains. Economically, prolonged conflict planning signals resource prioritization. Russia appears to be adjusting for sustainability, not speed. Ukraine, meanwhile, faces questions about long-term aid reliability. From a military standpoint, analysts suggest Arsenal could be defined by technology rather than territory, drones, electronic warfare, air defense. My expert commentary, clearly opinion, is this: the war's center of gravity is shifting from land control to endurance. Intelligence assessments are less about surprise and more about stamina. So what should we watch next? First, troop rotation patterns and logistics investments. Second, diplomatic messaging, especially around ceasefire frameworks. Third, funding decisions in Washington and European capitals. Possible scenarios range from continued stalemate to localized escalation to negotiated pauses. Any prediction here is speculative, but indicators suggest preparation for a long horizon. Why does this matter long term? Because wars don't end when plans leak. They end when incentives change. Let me leave you with 3 takeaways. Okay. First, intelligence reports shape perception more than tactics. Second, Arsenal appears to be about endurance, not dramatic breakthroughs. And third, understanding context matters more than reacting to headlines. Okay. If you found this analysis helpful, please like the video. Share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think Arsenal will bring? And subscribe for deeper geopolitical breakdowns. Our next video looks at NATO's internal debates you're not hearing about.